What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Meraki podcast. I'm your host, Eric Phillips, and thank you for joining me. This week, we have an awesome guest. This is a close friend of mine, someone who I love seeing strive. She is smart. She is amazing. She is intellectual, and you guys want to get a chance to see us shine our light on who we are interviewing today. Today, we have a host and a guest, Erika Degraff. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Eric, for having me. It is such a blessing and an honor, and I look forward to our conversation today.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, I guess we'll get started. The first question I'll ask you is, who's Erika Degraff? Erika Degraff.
All right. Well, I do have to make this known that Erika Degraff is my stage name. So my full name is Erika Degraff and Reed. And just due to people always spelling my name wrong, I had to shorten it to Degraff. So just putting that out there. But yes, I am originally from Chicago, Chi City. That is where I pretty much started my career. But we'll get into that as far as like starting within the fashion industry and then moving on to acting. But I'm from Chicago. I moved to New York. And I was there for about 7 years. And now I reside here in LA.
What was it like growing up in Chicago?
Well, I came from a very loving family. Very, very. And I think that has becomes part of my success today because they have kept me grounded. But yes, Chicago is a beautiful city. I love my city. And if you follow me on Instagram, I'm always repping my city because it's beautiful as far as landscape. It's a clean city and there are so many amazing artists that come out of Chicago. We are very, very talented. I am the youngest of 3 children. So it's me, and then I have a twin brother named Eric, and then I have an older brother named Andre. And, childhood was great. I was the little sister everybody picked on. Until this day, I'm still the one that gets picked on. But yes, I mean, I've always been into art. Like, that's just always how my mind has worked. Like, if you throw something to me about X's and Y's, with math, I can't tell you. But if you need me to draw a picture, if you need me to pick out some clothes, I am that person. So a lot of the things that my parents involved me in while I was younger, I will say I always excelled at because it was something that I was able to utilize my God-given talent. So I have to put that out there. So yes, being home, it was just beautiful. I don't have anything else to say besides that. It was a beautiful experience.
What is one childhood memory that you say defines who you are today?
One childhood memory. I wouldn't pinpoint it to one memory. I will say that my parents have always given me the freedom to be who I am, So I just remember at the age of 5, my parents putting me on a plane, and I've been traveling since then. So that added to the freedom aspect of it, where there's no limit. You can do whatever you put your mind to. So I think those type of things that they did have added to where I am now. Like I said, we started this podcast by me telling you, I'm from Chicago. Then I moved to New York, and then now in LA, I've hit every coast. But throughout this journey, I've also traveled worldwide, again, adding to who I am as a person, which we'll get into why traveling is so important as an artist. So, so I can't pinpoint it to just one memory, but I will say that freedom that they gave me, that support that they gave me has added to where I am now.
I can definitely attest to that. Freedom in certain parameters gives you a different type of lifestyle.
Yep.
it gives you the okay to say, yo, I can do it, whatever it is.
Yes.
I remember getting into it with my cousin one time. I think he had just had his kids. We were sitting around the table. I think it was around Thanksgiving or something like that. And we were talking about passion or whatever like that. And he had said something, oh my kid can't do something like that. That's not gonna be no. And I'm like, yo, dude, don't ever tell your kids what they can and cannot do. Never. We already, as us being black, we already are born with the marginalization that we can't. That very few of us now that number is starting to change, but very few of us could even overcome. You know what I mean? So I'll put another
Talk about
barrier, you know what I mean, on them. Give them that freedom. Let them know that it is okay to think outside the box. It's okay to think big and
it.
do be you.
My parents, they really had the model of trial and error, right? So they would allow us to mess up, but give us the opportunity to run back to them if needed. But they were the type of parents that drilled in us, if you're wrong, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. If you're right, I'll be by your side. So I think just having that in me also allowed me to go out and be free, because I lived that. Okay, you know not to do this because they won't be by your side because they know it's wrong. So yeah, it just really allowed me to live. Mm-hmm.
Well, just a little bit of background on the podcast name is when I was originally looking for the name of the podcast, I was looking for something that would define um, perseverance, define go get it, define love for whatever it is that you are doing.
Mm.
I came across the name of Meraki, so I went and researched it, and the definition of Meraki is doing whatever it is that you love, doing whatever it is that you do with love and passion. And so I said, all right, cool. That's what the name is going to be. So, with that being said, what is one thing that you uh, do with passion and love?
Well, I think the number one thing for me is, yes, my career is great. I think that is just an added bonus. But what I truly love is being able to go out and inspire people with my journey. And I do that with passion, undying passion. And through not just my work, but the words that I live by, I'm able to, you know, get people to believe in themselves as well. So I would say that, yeah, yes, it's the work, but at the same time, it's like how you treat people at the end of the day and how you make them feel. And that unwraps a new passion within them as well. It's like a domino effect, right? So yeah, I would say that that's the one thing that I do with passion. I love people. I love people deeply, even when some of them aren't deserving of love, but still love them because maybe you're the first person that they've ever experienced that from.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah.
We're agents, life-changing agents.
Definitely life-changing agents. And like I said, I speak openly about this. I love me some Jesus. I love me some God. I know for a fact that his hand has been over my entire life. Everything that people see, everything that I am is because of him, So the least that I can do is change the lives of his people. So yeah, you're right. We are life-changing agents. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How'd you get into acting?
Whew. I'll be honest. I fell into it. I literally tripped and fell into it. It was similar to.
Right? You fell.
I'm sorry.
You fell forward into it, right?
Oh yes, definitely fell forward. Just to give you a little bit of background, I started my career as a celebrity fashion stylist in Chicago. So that with that, I styled a lot of projects for like Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, anything as far as with campaigns. So Nike campaigns and anything for catalog. It was called catalog back in the day. Look it up if you don't know. Um, and from there, I decided I wanted more because my creative vision was more so towards like avant-garde and just the art of fashion more than just selling things. So with that, I decided to pack up my little suitcases. I had $60 in my pocket and I decided to move to New York. And when I was in New York, I still was very, very heavy in fashion. That was everything I had ever known. So I started to do like, again, fashion editorials, but then I moved into doing off-Broadway musicals and plays that's going towards like more costume design. And then I decided to move into film and TV. So if you're familiar with the show Ozark, I did assistant costume designing on that show. And then I started doing like short films that were circulating throughout the festivals, just really getting very deep into the costume world. At that point, I had already been doing it for 8 years and it took me all around the world. And it was such a great experience. But about 5 years ago, I was out here in LA. I wasn't living here, but I was out in Brentwood, California. It's 2 houses away from the O.J. Simpson house. It was this beautiful neighborhood, and I was styling a huge campaign. When I say it was 14 models, and I was the only stylist, I didn't have an assistant. And I just remember being on that set and not having that same passion, that same drive. It was as if like the light had went out. And after that photo shoot, I was in my Uber and I said, I don't think I'm supposed to do this anymore. I said, God, I'm leaving it up to you, but I just don't feel the same about it as I did 8 years prior. And I remember getting back on that plane and getting home, getting in my apartment, and something whispered. I know what that something is. Holy Spirit whispered to me and said, why don't you try acting? I said, acting? I said, people have always told me I'm a character, you know? And I just remember Googling, where do I find acting jobs? And Backstage came up, backstage.com. And I was just searching through, and there was a off Broadway play. And it was for this character, Emily Edmondson, who was she was a slave, and she was one of Harriet Tubman's proteges. Mm-hmm. So it was a very powerful role. And I remember contacting the director and saying, honestly, hey, I don't know how to do this. I've never acted before, but I would love the opportunity. Because I didn't have headshots, I didn't have resume, I didn't have any of that. And Kenya, I'll never forget his name. He gave me a chance. I remember when I was on the train in Brooklyn, headed to the audition, and everything internally was telling me, don't go to this. You're already, because I was late. You know how the trains are in New York, but I was late. Yeah. And I messaged Kenya and I said, I don't think I'm going to make it. The trains, and he said, no, I need you to come. I would like you to come. The auditions are still coming. And I was like, okay. And I get there, I read the character. Long story short, I ended up getting the lead. The lead was Emily Edmondson. And from that experience, it has been nothing but a domino effect. So yeah. So Michelle Hawkins and Kenya, I have to give them a shout out because they were the ones that gave me a chance. And I think that that's really important, you know, so I will always continue to go back to the theater world because that was the first place that gave me a chance. Mm-hmm.
I heard a lot of perseverance in what you just said, because
mm-hmm.
If you didn't go, you wouldn't have known. You know what I'm saying? You would have never got to the club, you know?
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it be those small things that God will put in your way, or to see if you really want it. You know what I'm saying? To see if you're listening to Him
Mm-hmm.
through the storm and all of that and all of the distractions that life brings you. He wants to see if you'll still be obedient, and
Yeah.
it's true. So I'm glad that you did, because I wouldn't have met you if you did.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that you said that. It's obedience. It's obedience. I mean, like I said, that little voice that was in me telling me not to, that was definitely the devil creeping in, because he saw what where I am now, and he wanted to kill that seed where it was. And God's like, no, what did I tell you? And it's really about being able to recognize God's voice, and through that is a lot talking to God, becoming His friend, and yeah. So that's how I got into acting. Long story short, that's how I got into acting.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about one of your more memorable experiences in your journey. You've been in a lot of different spaces creatively in the art discipline, but in all of those, you could probably pull a memorable idea. But what's one of your more memorable moments in your process, in your journey?
What, as far as projects or just
Experiences, projects, life-changing encounters? What
Oh,
was?
there's many of life-changing encounters,
Yeah,
but I will say, like, even piggybacking off of getting that role as Emily. And I remember one of the castmates, he came to me and he said, Erika, you have a natural gift, but if you went to acting school or took acting classes, it will only get better, you know. So from there, I ended up auditioning to get into the Stella Adler in New York.
yes, yes.
So
I went to the
um,
open house.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I went to the open house.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, and again,
Right now.
you again, that was one of those memorable experiences, because at that time, that was my second audition. I've never had an audition in my life besides the Emily Edmondson. And I just remember that being a memorable experience, because the instructors, they were asking me everything about, because you had to bring a monologue, and they were like, so tell me your character's name. And I was just making up stuff, just pulling stuff out, just because I didn't know that was the process. Like, you had to, if you don't know the character's name, you have to dig deep and you have to give the character a name, an age, or whatever. And I just remember at the end of that, they just looked at each other, like, and they just said, thank you. Yeah. And I left feeling so defeated. Again, defeated, thinking, and that voice that spoke to me on the train saying, told you not to do it, told you. And I believe 2 days later, I got the call stating that I got into the school. But that was a memorable experience because of the fact that I was able to go in there and just wing it. Yeah. And I can laugh at it now. I wish I can go back and do the monologue over. Yes, but it's just the memorable experiences that I've had through this journey is just the things that have happened by chance, the quirks that come along with it. And again, persevering. It's that word, persevering, to keep going. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You mentioned something in regards to going to Stella Adler.
Mm-hmm.
And what your castmate said to you, it does make a difference. Because like things like the character background, the character breakdown,
Mm-hmm.
is so essential. It's so important. You know what I mean? To your process. I was fortunate enough to get it a little bit early, but I had already known that that's what I wanted to do. So my mom had a performing arts workshop, and it would be certain questions that she would ask us that would make us think of the character a little bit differently, or just give you a different perspective on the character, or on that person's, or the other characters that your scene partners, what their day is like, what's going on with them. so that you can kind of receive it a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
Because being mad, let's use that as an example, is it's not always like what we would normally think it is. Sometimes it can show up in many different ways. But all of that work goes into when you're in school, when you're doing the classes. So my question
Wait, I'm sorry to cut you off. I love that you said that. I love that you said that. Because obviously the easiest emotion for actors to access is what? Anger. So I was challenged while I was at the Stella Adler. They're like, why do you feel the need to always project to show that you're angry? And in my mind, I'm like, because I want the audience to feel that. And I remember the instructor that I had was like, okay, let me just give you a scenario, because Adler is about imagination. So imagine yourself in this situation, right? So he said, Erika, let's just say, you remember when you were at church and you were maybe acting up at church and your parents just gave you a look, but you knew what that look meant? And I told him, well, I don't have to imagine that. I've been in that situation. He's like, even better. That's the he's like, you're in it then. You don't have to imagine it. I said, yes. So he said, did they have to yell? I'm like, no. But he's like, but you knew what they meant, right? With that look. And I said, yes. He's like, try that. And I guarantee your audience will feel internally what you're feeling. And I challenge because I think but I coach actors now too. But I challenge them, especially those of color. Yeah. I'm like, once you give out anger, you then get painted as the angry Black woman or the angry Black man, and then you become threatening. Yeah. And we want to show that our stories are deeper than that. And so I always challenge them to go back to what that instructor taught me those many years ago. So
that's so good. That's so good. Mm-hmm. My question to you is, how important is classes? How important is the work?
It is beyond important. Yeah. It is beyond. Yes, you can have natural talent, but it's just something about being in a classroom with other hungry actors that you can really feed off of that does something to you. I think that is also important because you start to learn the technical side of acting, especially when you get a lot of emotionally driven roles, which that's my ring, where I get booked a lot to cry on set, cry on cue, and I think that it's so important to have the tools that you need instead of thinking of something so tragic, because that starts to mess with your mental a little bit. So if you have like the tools that you can access that and not have to hurt yourself internally, I think that it's very much needed. So I love class. I still take classes till this day. And I remember one instructor told me, if Denzel Washington still takes acting classes, what's your excuse? And that was 100% true. He's one of the greatest actors of our time. So if he's still digging deep, why can't I? And it goes beyond just acting classes. It's getting into accent classes. It gets into stunt classes. So all of those type of classes you need to become a better actor. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, so in regards to being a better actor, let's talk about this. You did mention traveling the world. How does that play a part into your acting career?
It opens your mind into new possibilities. It opens your mind into new cultures. It opens your mind to be able to see people that are outside of your norm. I've been blessed to travel to London and Paris and Hawaii and Italy and just all of these different places. But what I've learned is that each culture is different. each person is different. And I've learned to now start to people watch. Yeah. And with that, those are things that you can take to bring into your work. Yeah. So it was one instance that I was in Paris, and I decided to just sit outside and watch people. Yeah. And it was this one lady, every time she ate her food, she hummed. I'm like, that's interesting. Why would you hum every time you take a bite? And then doing character work, I'm like, that's a soothing thing. So maybe she feels soothed when she eats, or maybe it's some kind of, other mechanism, but I started to put that type of work into my own work. So I think it just opens you up, and it allows you to be able to, just see things differently. Yeah. And from a different perspective, which you have to know as an actor.
Yeah. It's I was finishing up my degree at Kane, and I took a psychology class. Mm. It was theories of personality, and it was one of the most. So I took the class preview, but when I was in college in my prime time, I'm still in my prime, but when I was in my immature ages,
yep,
my immature season, I wasn't paying attention in that class, right? And if I would have, if we always say this, if I knew what I know now,
come on now,
I'd have paid attention to that class, because it does, and this is in addition to traveling, because when you travel, you see those people, but the class gave me a more of an in-depth into the actual psyche of people. And,
yeah. And
though we all have different experiences, we have more similarities than what we believe. And
100%.
Something as simple as the older sibling or the younger sibling syndrome, and what that may do, and how you may act in regards to, like, when you grow up and different things like that. Mm-hmm. To understand that, it not only gave me a mirror to reflect on myself, but to also understand people a little bit better. I always use this example when Denzel played Frank Lucas in American Gangster. That's such a Frank Lucas, in his immature ages, was a very powerful but very dark man. You know what I'm saying? And so Denzel,
and flashy.
Yeah.
Remember, he was very flashy.
You know what I mean?
Which added to when he became older and more mature, and he was telling his girl, like, no, when you're too flashy, you bring attention to yourself.
That part. Mm-hmm. And so be able to understand that Frank Lucas, all he was doing was just trying to feed his family. You know what I'm saying?
Bingo.
He was just trying to do right by his family because he grew up in poverty. So being able to understand that, you have a different understanding of the character, and then you approach it a little bit differently. You approach it with apathy opposed to sympathy. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it makes you think outside the box, which I always tell all of my clients. Do not go for what's general that's on the page. You have to go beyond the words, because there's always a reason why people do the things that they do. And if you go for the general reason that with Frank Lucas, oh, he's a bad guy, he just wants to that isn't interesting for the audience. But when we know that he was really just trying to feed his family, because of how his childhood was, then you start to see the character as human. And it makes you question yourself. If you were in his shoes, what are the lengths that you would go to make sure your family was fed?
Yeah. If you see like a shotgun shoved into his mouth, like busting his teeth out, that would probably have you look at law enforcement in a different way.
Definitely. But it's that constant question of why. Every time I approach a character, every audition that I get, I always go through the 5 W's. Who, what, when, where, what do I need? What is my objective? And if I can't clearly know these things, then I'm not ready to audition and I'm not ready to tape whatsoever, because that to me means I don't know the character.
Yeah.
So it's constantly asking why. That also adds to you being a better actor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the people on having travel, man, it not only gives you the experience, but it opens you up to different perspectives outside of your own.
Yes, and one major thing that people tell me all the time, Erika, traveling is so expensive, and I'm like, really? But you're wearing $1,500 shoes. You don't have a passport, but you have all of these material things that in a couple years will be worth nothing. But my experiences of traveling the world, I can have forever.
You never lose that.
Never.
You make lifelong friends that way.
And I've made lifelong friends that has also been very critical throughout my journey, especially being young and not having a whole lot of money. And a friend that I met will say, hey, you could just stay with me. I got you.
Yeah.
Because they are also seeing how hungry you are, how passionate you are about the craft, about your talent. So yeah, it's really important, definitely.
Mm-hmm. What's been on your mind lately, Erika?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What's been on your mind lately?
Oh. What's been on my mind has definitely been how can I truly impact the world with my gift? Yeah. I think about that every morning, every night. And I think that by me waking up each day and using my gift to help others, that's helping impact. But again, I'm asking myself, why? Why do you want to do this? Yeah. What is the domino effect with that? And with me constantly asking myself why, that's making me deeper and bringing me deeper into a process and allowing me to create more ideas. Yeah. Yeah. That's been on my mind lately. Mm-hmm.
In regards to changing lives and making impact, you played a character that has schizophrenia. And it is in the mental health sector of the world. It's a very popular term, but in the world where it has become a lot more known, it is not the understanding, the light has not been shined on it for the people that actually suffer from it. So why did you take that role?
Whew. I don't want to say why did I take that role, but why did the role choose me?
Why did it choose you?
So let me first clarify that the character that I played was actually a real life person. So learning about Daphne was a process. Learning that she was a teacher to students that were mentally disabled. Learning that she came from a loving family, prominent family, who was all about fighting for Black activism and Black rights and freedom fighters. Yeah. Learning that she was really a pillar within her community. So I felt that it was really important to firstly tell that story the right way. Yeah. And through that, I teamed up with the director and I just kept asking, tell me about her. What was her mannerisms? What were things that when people saw her, they knew that it was Daphne. And with that, I was able to, become her in this most beautiful, beautiful way. But going back to the mental health aspect, because of the fact that coming from a prominent Black family and to have a sudden onset of schizophrenia, that's something that most families cannot deal with. And we see a little peek into that within the film, where I don't want to tell too much, but we do see peaks of that where the family is struggling to understand this. And at the same time, Daphne is struggling to understand, why did this happen to her? Especially since she's been doing all the right things. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful story. And it's going to be, I don't want to put a date on when it's launched because we just wrapped up filming, but it's a story that a character that I'm so proud of.
Yeah.
Very proud of her. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were some of the mental preparations that you had to explore to get there?
Well, as many people know, I'm a method actor. And with that, you truly just become the character. You live as the character. So I know this sounds so crazy, but there were days that I would spend hours in my closet in darkness. And if you know a little bit about schizophrenia, they hear voices. Those individuals hear voices in their ears. And this is a disclaimer, this is not for everybody. So if you don't know how to get yourself out of it, I do not recommend method acting. But going back to what I was saying, I had on YouTube, there would be screams in my ear. There would be whispers in my ear. And I would listen to that for hours. And I would be in my house. I didn't actually leave my house for a week. I wasn't on social media. I wasn't, even family members would call me and they're like, we haven't heard from you. What's going on? But that was the character. The aloneness that she felt, especially during the latter of her life. So yes, it's that's how I mentally prepared. But at the same time, when I slept, I had to keep reminding myself that I'm playing a character. Because if you do not remind yourself of these things, then unfortunately, many times you start to believe it. And that whole statement of, you are what you constantly think about. Yeah. You can truly become it. So so that's how I mentally prepared for her. I'm still, I'm better, but I'm still coming off of that emotionally driven role. But yes, that's how I prepared, definitely.
Yeah. It's so good because a lot of people, they really think that acting is just like reading lines and then just like mimicking what they believe they see on the paper. But it is everybody has their own different process. So I don't want to disrespect or offend anyone that may not go to those limbs. But
oh yeah, definitely not.
There's a different experience that you have as the actor. It's a different experience that the people on set has because of you.
I'm gonna call everybody out. Everybody on that set was in tears.
But I'm saying, like, it is it's infectious. It's infectious. even when we're not having a good day, if anybody that knows you, they're like, oh, she's not having, Erika's
They
not
know me.
like, it's not about to be a
That's
good
a
day,
fact.
right?
Yep.
So knowing that, it's like, that's what brings the beauty onto the screen. That's what makes this story impactful.
I always tell people acting is about making your audience feel something. You have to not think selfishly. It's not about you. It's not, how can I feel something? No, it's how you make people feel when they see your work. You should make them feel nostalgia. You should make them feel anger. You should make them see you and be reminded of, oh my God, she reminds me of my mother or my sister or whoever. You want them to see you, because with that, they see you as human and not a character.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I say never play the character.
Yeah.
Let it be you. Yeah. Because it's either something that you didn't know what was there, yeah, or that you buried and now have to unearth.
Yeah. And that can be scary sometimes.
Oh, it's because it's a very vulnerable place. Yeah. Acting is about being vulnerable. And it's about you knowing yourself, trusting yourself. And I get this question a lot too, before we go back to your question, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. But people ask me, when did I know when to move to LA? Mm-hmm. And I said, I knew when I knew myself. Because of the fact that when you get here, you know, you can easily start to get blinded by the glitz, the glam, the celebrities, the everything. And if you don't know yourself, Hollywood will quickly let you know who they want you to be. So that you start to take on roles that you probably wouldn't take on before. You start to surround yourself with, quote unquote, the right people, because they'll get you in to whatever, you know. And sadly, in some cases, those people that came here ended up having to go back home because they came here for the wrong reasons. They didn't know themselves. So I think that that's also a part of acting. Being an actor, you have to know yourself.
So most important.
Most
important. Since we're already on the topic, I always usually end the podcast on mental health. It's important, and for someone who has experienced a roller coaster in regards to mental health, I feel as though it's a beautiful thing to be able to shine light on. In your journey, you've been on you have highs, you have lows, and one of the things that a lot of people, they may know but really don't understand until you experience it, is being told no, you have to become comfortable with. And as humans, we're not wired for no on a regular basis. It is very discouraging. It is very hurtful sometimes. It hurts.
Oh yeah.
Especially when you put so much work into your character, as much as you can, it can become very discouraging. But when you do land that role, it's like, yo, here we go, baby.
Yeah.
How do you manage your mental wellness in this journey?
Well, first off, I'm huge on therapy. I think that therapy is so important, especially within the Black and Brown communities, because of the fact that when you become these characters, and if you're still holding on to trauma within your life, it doesn't do you justice, and it doesn't do the character justice. So being able to speak to someone that you trust to try to understand why you do these things, and how you can, get past them is very important. So therapy, number one. When it comes to no's and rejections, I do remember, speaking honestly, like in the very early in my career, I would take it personal. I'm like, did they not see that audition? And now that I look back, I was like, oh, I wouldn't have hired me either, But
yes.
But now, as far as with where I'm at now, I just feel that if it doesn't come to me with ease, then it wasn't for me. This was a character that I had to play for 15 minutes in this audition because I needed to learn something in this moment. And if I didn't get it, then I just let it go and I release it. And I always thank the character. Yeah. You know, thank you, Daphne, for allowing me to play you. You can be released. Yeah. So thinking of it technically as well, after being in so many casting directors workshops, which also is very important, most of the time it's not even about the actor. Yeah. It could easily be, you know, this actor has more followers, so we're going to choose them because they're more marketable, which means, you know, I tell this people all the time, social media is so important, you know, if utilized the right way. So when you start to realize that it's not about you and your skills, it becomes easier. The no's become easier, you know, and it's all about not getting so attached to a character in an audition, you know. So once you have that audition, crumple up the paper, throw it away, and move on to the next. Because the more that you start to harp on it, that's when, you know, that rejection starts to kind of take over you, you know. So yes, like I said, I mean, I've just learned through maturity and through this journey, I've just learned to just say, it's not about me. It's what the world needs from that character at that time. And I'm not it, and that's okay.
That's all right.
Mm-hmm.
People need to hear that.
I mean, it's hard, you know. I mean, so if you watch interviews from actors that have been in the game for 30 years, 35 years, and each interview that I've ever seen, they all spoke about how they are glad that they got the success when they did. Because if they would have gotten it too early, they wouldn't have been prepared, you know. And what I've learned too is as you get older, there's something so beautiful that happens to you as far as your acting, where it becomes more grounded. You become more sure of yourself and you become honest. Yeah. You know, and acting is about telling the truth and being honest. So yeah, so I tell God all the time, take your time with me, because we're building a legacy. We're building longevity. You know, I want this gift that He has implanted in me to go on for generations, you know, and that my nieces and nephews or kids, when I have kids, for them to benefit off of this. Yeah. So when you think of it like that no, okay, that just means not right now. Yeah. Moving on.
As a Black, smart, an amazing, beautiful woman that you are, what is one of the toughest things that you come up against in this industry?
The toughest thing, I would definitely say is, you know, how do I put this? Sometimes getting a lot of auditions that are sexualized. That's one of the biggest things I've seen throughout my journey, where colorism, I think, I'm now seeing that's a thing, you know, where sometimes if you are of lighter skin, you're seen one way, and if you're of darker skin, you're seen another way, you know. So I would say that has been the hardest thing. And again, going back to having a loving family that keeps me grounded, because I always have to question. I have to say, God, why did you choose me for this type of role? You know, is this really of you? Which I struggle with a lot, because I want to put out work that is meaningful. And my parents always say, Erika, you're playing a character. You have to tell this story. We know that that's not you, but there's something about you that they need to tell the story, and don't lean in with sexualization, the aspect of it, lean into the opposite and see where that takes you. So that has been, and still to this day, it's been the hardest thing for me, because I'm like, Lord, that's not who I am, but it's just something that I'm learning as part of the process and the journey of it. So will it get easier? Probably not, but my way of handling it gets easier. So. Mm-hmm.
And lastly, how important is God in your journey?
Oh, if y'all made it this far, y'all know I speak about God. God is everything in my life, everything. And I can personally say that you need God in this industry, because like I said, if you don't know him, if you don't know yourself, you can get caught up in some stuff that you don't want to be caught up in. But he has protected me. He has guided me. He has ordered my steps. He has broke me down to mold me. And it's just been beautiful. So the person that you see today, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I was always this person 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but it was through that breaking that now I'm on display for him to see, for everybody to see how good he is. So yeah, I love me some God. I
love God. You love God.
I told him, I'm like, keep putting me on these platforms that I can speak about you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is good. So I always end the podcast off with 10 rapid questions. So if I ask a question and it's, you got to think too long on it, you can pass on it. That's fine. No, they're all pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy. All right.
All right.
All right. Favorite movie?
Set It Off.
Set It Off. Favorite actor or actress?
Viola Davis. Angela Bassett is one of my favorites. Halle Berry.
Come on now.
The list can go on.
Come on now. Yo, you are. I spoke with 2 other actors, and the other one said Viola Davis. I'm like, yo, we there. She's a beast.
She is a beast. I got the chills right now. But like I said, my all-time favorite is Angela Bassett. Angela Bassett, her range. Yeah. And our journeys are pretty similar. So I'm like, I'm on the right path. I'm on the right path. And she's paved a way for so many women that look like her and then look like me. Yeah. So yeah, she's my fave. Call me Angela, please.
Favorite color?
Red.
Favorite dish?
Well, I'm a vegan, so any vegan dish, I eat a lot of broccoli and rice. So that's my favorite.
But I probably should have revised this next question, but I said Cheesecake Factory or Red Lobster?
Well, I haven't been to either in such a long time, but I will say the Cheesecake Factory, and I bring it back to the memory of every time I go to Chicago, my mom and we go there for lunch, and we've been doing that for many, many years. So I would definitely say the Cheesecake Factory.
What's your favorite vegan spot out there in LA?
Oh, there's so many. There's Gratitude, Cafe Gratitude that I really, really like. What else? There's so many. That's the one that I can think of off the top of my head. What is it? Nick on Beverly's. And they sell like kind of like a mixture of American, but then a little bit of soul food at the same time, but it's all vegan. So yep.
I ate at, though it was expensive, but it was worth every penny. Good Burger. That's a vegan burger joint. They do shakes, they do chicken sandwiches, burgers, and stuff like that. All plant-based.
Oh, I never heard of that. I do know that what's his name? The comedian. what's his name? House.
Hart House.
Kevin, yeah, Hart House is out here, and that's been on my list of places to go. But yeah, there's so many places out here that if I can remember now, I would tell you. But those are definitely top two: Cafe Gratitude and Nick's on Beverly.
East or West Coast?
Seeing that I was just in New York last week, I'm going to say East Coast. And I'm saying East Coast because of the fact that that was the very place that made me who I am now. It brought me into the world of acting. So definitely East Coast for that reason, but West Coast because of the weather. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Love or loyalty?
Loyalty. Because I can teach you how to love.
Come on now.
But I can't. If you let's just put it like that. Loyalty all day.
Straight like that. Theater or on screen?
Theater is the first place that gave me a voice.
It's my first love.
It's my first love. Yes. And those that have been following my career, I think I've done over 14 shows.
Yes.
Over 14. Most recently, as of last year, I did a 3-month tour for the play Doubt. I played Mrs. Muller. And if you know on screen, Mrs. Muller was played by who? Viola Davis. And she was opposite of Meryl Streep. And I played Katie in this play called Good People by David Lindsay Abaire. Another powerful, emotionally driven story. And those are my most recent plays. But yeah, I will return to the stage all day, every day.
That's good. Favorite hobby?
Well, I'm old, so sleeping.
Oh, where?
Sleeping. I know people are like, man, you go to bed at 8:30. I do enjoy sleeping a lot. But outside of that, I'm big on museums. A lot of people, I'm a big history buff. So I do, when I have free time, I visit all of the exhibits. Very, very much so. I'm an avid museum goer, and I watch a lot of documentaries. So yeah, that's my favorite hobby.
Yeah. Winter or summer?
Hello, I live on the West Coast. Summer. I did my time with winter. We done.
Especially in the windy city, right?
And with the negative zero, and then you got the wind chill on top of that. I've done my time. So and it's funny because it's actually quote unquote winter time here now, and it's like 60 degrees, and I'm like, it's so cold, like I literally have the heat on right now. Yeah. I know that's so crazy, and it's 60 degrees outside.
So good, you get acclimated, but when it's good out there, it's good out there.
It's good. It's great. It's great.
That's it. Well, Erika, I thank you for coming and joining me on this journey. Thank you for allowing me to shine my light on you, and I appreciate you.
No, thank you for having me. Like I said, you my cousin till the very end. And I'm grateful, and I really, really hope that this podcast will inspire some people. And I always tell people, live to love, live to inspire, live to have a dream beyond your reality. So yeah, you know where to find me, French Vendette on Instagram and all social media channels.
That's it. Well, guys, you heard it here first. Thank you for joining me for another week of the Meraki podcast. Please share with someone that you know, someone that you love, someone that may be in the field that we're discussing, or someone that just may need to be inspired. I appreciate you, and I love you. And as always, peace over everything. Peace.